G'day. I'm starting a series today that I'm calling Exploring Inner Space. And I'll be presenting to you concepts that I'm quite confident you've never heard before in the way that I'll present them. All of my material is original and it's come from my massive experience as a therapist and teacher of personal and spiritual development. The first thing we would start with is the basics. And so today's first video is going to be quite short, but a very deep dive to start with. So if you'd like to join me as we go exploring, please gently tap subscribe and maybe the like button as well. That would be great. Thank you. Okay. When people go into their inner space, mostly they're going to find it's dark. So I will talk now about the way that we are all raised. Traditionally, we are traditionally raised to live in fear. And fear is dark energy. We were raised to live in fear by people who themselves were raised to live in fear, by people who themselves were raised to live in fear, by people, etc., way, way back. Okay. Now, when we are afraid, our natural instinct is to fight to survive or flight. Flight for us as humans can be running for cover, can be covering ourselves with clever words. But another way, when I was working as a stress management consultant, that I would talk about flight mode is withdrawing into a safe space within where no one can reach you, hopefully, and cause you any damage. I know there's another mode called freeze. I used to put freeze into the flight category because freeze also is like going within and keeping yourself safe and not coming out until it's safe to do so. So it's like a retreat. Then the two main categories are fight for your life, for your survival, or retreat to a safe space for your survival. And these are the two main principles of self-preservation. And that's the bottom line. And so if we do a really deep dive, we'll find a deep, dark fear of not surviving, which is the fear of death. So as we go through the series, I will help you understand how this motivation is affecting our life a lot of the time. I'll explain what fight mode is expressed as, and also how we often go into flight mode to make ourselves safe. And you could say what we do in general, we take care to stay safe. Does that sound familiar to you? That's what happens in our modus operandi every day. Now, a modus operandi, modus is the means or the way in Latin. Operandi means to operate, So our modus operandi is the way we run our life, the way we operate our life. And I am looking at fear as the main mover. And I've been exploring fear in our modus operandi for almost 40 years. And here are my findings. In the next video, I'll be starting to focus on a very common means of expression of our fear. And I'll be looking at fight mode. And specifically, I'll be looking at anger. Anger is fear in fight mode. We can look at what the motivation of anger is, or the dynamic, or the motivating force. And I think you're going to find this very revealing. And I'm also going to tell you about a 4-letter word that I associate with fear, and it's not the one you probably think it is. So I'll leave that with you for the moment. But just before I go on this first video in the series, you know how a lot of teachers these days say, choose love or fear, and choose love, especially if they're teaching spirituality. I personally think that's unrealistic. It's a beautiful idea, definitely, because love is beautiful and love is the way we would all like to go. But I'm suggesting we don't have a choice on fear. Until, that is, we become more self-conscious. We get to know our own selves better. And as we do, what happens is our consciousness starts to rise, starts to expand. As our consciousness, or our understanding and our knowing of our own selves gets greater, at the same time our subconscious and our unconscious, the parts of ourselves that we don't understand and we don't know about, that part of us reduces. So what I'll be helping you to do is become what I call more consciously conscious. And as that happens, you will naturally move more out of fear and into a more loving modus operandi, or personal reality, or experience of life. And then you've got the choice. Then you can choose love or fear. But truly, who is actually ever going to choose fear? It's not a realistic question. So I hope you've enjoyed this first in my long series of exploring inner space. So let's connect again for the next video. And please subscribe and maybe press like as well. And that'll get me going on YouTube to get my numbers up. I appreciate that. Thank you. See you. Bye.